welcome to episode 18 of the Knitting Traditions podcast. My name is Inga, and you can find me on Instagram as Knitting Traditions, and every now and then on Ravelry as Knitting Tradition, but I mostly use it for knit-alongs and make-alongs. Welcome! It's been a while. If you're a returning viewer, I'm very fortunate if you're still following me on my knitting journey. And if you're a new viewer, hello! This is a podcast where I talk about knitting. I talk about what I've been working on lately and the yarn I'm using and why, and just talking a little bit around it. And then usually at the end I sit and knit a bit and just chat with you. So yes, it's almost Easter, and in Norway, because I live on the west coast of Norway, here we do not only make Christmas sweaters, but it's kind of a thing to also make Easter sweaters. So I am wearing a very yellow Eastery sweater. If you've been following this podcast for a while, I started in the fall, I gravitate a lot towards warm earthy tones, but for Easter I always get like a burst of vibrant color inspiration. So this is the Easter sweater that I made last year, and the pattern is called Trescau. I will put links to everything that I talk about in the description box below here on YouTube. But this is a free pattern by Along Avec Anna. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. She's French, but she lives in the UK. And this is one of her patterns, which is free, and it's a lovely pattern. It has a garter edge on the sleeves, and it has a very cute raglan increased detail, and also the edging on the bottom is garter. At least I think it's also garter in the pattern. I'm not sure if I made a modification, but I made the size 3, and I used a Norwegian hand-dyed yarn called Knitorama, which is a merino silk, and it was 600 meters per skein, and this whole sweater was 1 skein, and I paired it together with 4 skeins of tilia, and that's a silk mohair yarn from Fabel, because I saw that it was like this vibrant yellow, and the Knitorama color was called mango, so it was a great match. And yeah, this is a Easter sweater because it's very yellow, and Along Avec Anna has also generously donated 5 patterns to the Stash Along, which is a make-along that we're running through all of this year. And to participate, you just make whatever you want with something that you've had in your stash pre-2021, so something you got last year or even earlier. And it doesn't have to be knitting, it could be crochet or sewing, or just make something to appreciate what you already have. And she's donating 5 patterns, so throughout the year I will draw some prices, and then you can choose yourself which pattern you would like. She generously donated 2 patterns that I could choose from to make. So I think I will make one of her t-shirt patterns this spring or summer, because she does have some lovely like staple pieces that can go with anything. A lot of it is stockinette. She also really likes lace, and she also has some lovely colorwork patterns, and she also makes pattern for children, and she makes patterns in English and French and Russian, Danish, maybe Italian. She has several languages. So you should check her out if you'd be interested. I really like this pattern. I think it was really well written, and I can't believe that it's a free pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it, and yes, only positive things to say about it. The merino silk is very soft, and usually I don't find silk mohair itchy. However, I did want a more fitted garment, so I did make a size that was quite fitted, and I do feel slight prickle factor on my arms, which I think is from the silk mohair. I don't think it's from the merino silk, because that was a very smooth fiber strand yarn. Yes. Alright, so I hope you have something lovely to drink. I made myself an iced coffee because I just got home from a 26-hour shift and I just needed to cool down. I didn't really feel like having another warm drink because I've been drinking warm coffee for several hours now. But I figured I wanted to record a video for you guys from my new apartment, or my old new apartment. I used to live here before, and then I rented it out when I was working as a doctor in a general practitioner's family doctor's office. But now I'm back working in the hospital as an OB-GYN doctor, and I'm loving it. I'll talk more about that later because we have more knitting to talk about. So I was working on this the last time. This is a pattern called alasuq polar, and I had yarn to make this in fall colors, but then I already had one in green and beige and red, so I wanted one that was more Eastery, spring summer like. So I got some of the most vibrant colors I could find, and yes, I finished this. It went by really quickly. I did try to make it in 4 days. That didn't happen. It took me like 6 days, but it's knit on, I think 7mm needles or 6. So it goes by quite quickly, but the yoke was a lot longer than I thought it was gonna be. So it took me a while, especially this section here when you have all the sleeve and arm stitches on the needles. And I hadn't brought a long cord for my needles, so I had to like work on a small circumference. But yeah, I really like it. It's really warm. I tend to wear this if I am skiing, so I did bring this last weekend when I went skiing with my cousin and friends, and just wore this when sitting outside in the sun, and I'll put some footage at the end. Ooh. Other than that, I also like to wear it in the summer when I go camping because it gets cold in Norway in the evenings. So then I like to put it on so I can just snuggle up. I might even have even more layers underneath, but this kind of gives you heat. The yarn is alafosslopi mainly, which is it's a thick yarn by Istex, a Icelandic yarn, and it's not super soft, but it does soften up a bit when you wash it, because it's a slightly oversized garment and it's not very tight on your skin. I don't find that it itches that much. Also the neck in the pattern is quite loose, but you could still do the turtle maneuver and snuggle up, but it's not tight on the neck, and that really helps if a yarn is more scratchy, that it doesn't stay fitted on your skin or like constricted. because then it will itch more. So yeah, I don't itch myself to death when I wear this. And the beige, blue and purple tones is alafosslopi, and then the green, orange and yellow is lettlopi, which is a thinner version of the alafosslopi, but if you hold it double, it's exactly the same thickness, so that expands the color horizon. So that's what I did. I paired it double so that I could get a lot of these Eastery and brighter colors. And then I still have more of this yarn to make the more autumnal version, which maybe I'll make closer to the fall again. Because right now I'm feeling the spring colors for a bit, which I always do. And then I go back to my factory settings. So yeah, I'm gonna take this off now because wearing 2 wool sweaters inside the apartment is quite warm. So yes, but I'm really happy with this one. I highly recommend. The designer behind this sweater, this sweater is in a book of hers. I don't remember the name of her Instagram now, because I think she might have changed her Instagram name at some point, but I will put it here. I heard rumors that her book will be released in English in September. So if you would like to try tons of stunning yoked patterns with Icelandic wool, and also a lot of her patterns are using tinde and finul and other Norwegian rustic yarns. So if you want to get your hands on that, have a look out around September, or follow her on Instagram and she'll probably post it there. So yes, really happy with my alasuq polar, and I already really want to make another pattern from that book. But yes, I want to make all the things and I don't have all the time anymore, so we shall see what happens. And I have also made some progress on the socks that I made in duraspft, a Canadian yarn from Nova Scotia, from Briggs and Little, which I got from my yarn swap friend Suzanne, and we just made another yarn swap. So I didn't get to record because life was busy. I didn't get to record the yarn that I bought from her, but knowing that she watches this podcast, I guess it's a good thing, because then she can watch this whole episode without any spoilers. But I got her some lovely yarn. Trust in that. So this was done last time, and I had just cast it on the second sock. So I made quite a bit of progress. I'm making 3 braids on the front of the foot and leg, and then just stockinette for the heel and below. So I used a 1x1 ribbing, and then I used the mohair construction, which is what my grandmother taught me, and I've written it up, so it is on Ravelry if you're interested. However, for this one, because the braids were less than half of the stitches of the entire leg, I took 2 extra stitches when I divided for the heel, and that also meant I needed to do 2 extra decreases on the heel. But I really liked the effect of it, because the leg then is bigger than the foot, and it fits like a glove or a sock, you know what I mean. However, I did bring this to work in my bag, and then I spilled coffee in my bag because my thermos cup, well, it wasn't properly closed, so these socks were swimming in coffee, so I had to rinse them off. And I just wanted to show you how much this yarn blooms. Okay, so this is the strand from the ball that I wound up. I do have a ball winder, but I really wanted to feel this fiber, so I did it by hand just to get a feel of it. And this is how it bloomed after getting rinsed. Do you see how big of a difference that is? It bloomed beautifully. And I can already feel just from a quick rinse that it softened up beautifully. So yeah, I'm really excited to have these socks done. I do own a lot of knitted socks because I like to wear knitted socks all year round. I can't wear them to work now because they would probably get destroyed because it's a messy work. But as soon as I get home, I put on socks, and today I'm wearing Easter socks. So these are some white and orange, and it gets blown out, white and orange socks with just some simple color work. Knit 3 in white and then knit 1 in orange, and then on the next row swap that around or something like that. Yeah, very simple color work, but I don't have any socks with braids on them. I have a lot of plain socks, I have a lot of colorwork socks. I have like this big box of socks that I keep them in, both socks that I've knitted myself, socks that my grandmother has knitted, the one who taught me how to knit, and also socks that my other grandma has knit for me in the past. And I'm never throwing away any of those socks, even if they get worn out, because those are precious. So these will be my first structured socks with braids on them. So I'm really excited for that. It is a bit hard on the hands to knit them because I have opted to do it without a cable needle, so I just have to hold the stitches. Yeah, but it works out fine. It's all worth it in the end. And yes, I have also made some progress on my Aito shawl by Melody Hoffmann, which is also using Icelandic yarn. It's using the pløtulopi, which is an unspun yarn, and the colors are just beautiful. This color right here is called wood, and I have a lot more of it because I do want to make a sweater in this, because I thought it just had some beautiful warm brown and then cool gray tones, and I found it very interesting. And then this one is one of the beige or heathered beige colors. The Aito shawl is a shawl that switches between garter and lace, and then you spit splice 6 different colors from one end to the other to make a gradual color change. And I've made the gradual color change from darker brown to lighter brown to the wood color to the beige color, and then it's gonna end with a sorry, I inhaled some fiber. It's gonna end with a it's called ivory, but it's not really ivory. I think it looks like a light beige. So the last time that I showed this, I had gotten, I think, this far. I had just started the other lace, and now I finished that lace, did another garter section, and started this lace section, which is the 3rd lace section. And yeah, every row it takes longer because you're increasing on one of the sides, so this will take a while, but I am enjoying it. It's just, I really have to be mindful of my tension, because this yarn, since it's unspun, it breaks easily, and I have learned after casting on that that it's smart to keep it in the plastic, because it comes in a plastic wrapping, and then you can just make a hole in the center and then pull the strand from the center, and then that way it will not break as easily. But honestly, I don't find that it breaks when I'm pulling it around like this, because I'm aware that it breaks easily. However, what the problem is for me is sometimes when I knit holding it like this is where it kind of stretches and then breaks. You see, because it's very easy to pull apart. And I find that the colorways are different. This color is quite sturdy. I don't find that it breaks as easily, but the other color that I'm using right now, this one, seems more fragile to me. It breaks more easily, or it stretches more easily as I knit with it. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the lanolin content being different, but yeah, I just have to be a bit mindful when I knit to relax my hands, and then it's fine. And it's also, if it stretches, I just lay the strands double, and you don't need to use spit or water to spit splice these. You can just rub them together, or you can even, I've heard that you could just lay them on top of each other for just lay them like this. You don't even have to rub, and just knit, and then they will kind of stick to each other because of the roughness of the unspun strands and the scales of the wool. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I'm really looking forward to transitioning into the more lighter colors, and hopefully I will have another warm woolen shawl before summer. And if not, maybe I'll just let it rest and then continue knitting on it in the fall. Because I do think that the process of knitting should be enjoyable. If you don't enjoy what you're knitting on, I'd rather put it aside and let it rest and then get back to it than force it. Because I find that if I force myself to work on something, then I'm kind of over it when it's finished, and I don't enjoy it as much as a finished garment either. And the mood changes. Sometimes I feel like knitting on something super woolly, and other times, if it's 30 Celsius outside and you're sweaty, maybe it's more enjoyable to knit on a linen t-shirt or something lighter. However, I do knit on woolen things in the summer as well, so it all depends. And yeah, so I was knitting this and I thought, well, this is Easter, but it's also spring and summer, so maybe I should make another Easter sweater, like a loud Easter sweater. So I had bought some yarn from mohair in the fall. I bought 2 sweater quantities, and I made the winter sweater. And then I also bought this yarn, let's see, for a more autumnal version of the sweater. And she got in contact with me because she had gotten orders from all over the world, and she wanted to gift me some yarn for a Easter sweater that she had. So I had this yarn in my stash. It was a very bright yellow this is a mohair yarn from African Expressions Love, which is actually a South African yarn. And it's 78% mohair, 13% wool, and 9% nylon. And the yarn that she sent me was for one of her Easter sweaters, because she has a Easter pattern. And it was with green and hot bright pink. I asked her if she would allow me to make a sweater, another sweater pattern of hers with this yarn instead, because she does have a lot of beautiful designs, and I really enjoy one of her patterns, which is called Lena's Flash Dance sweater, which is quite like 80s inspired. And I did have a lot of small leftovers from the previous sweater that I made, the winter sweater. So I wanted to kind of use up my scraps and make like a very loud Easter sweater. So that's what I did. I'm not finished yet. I still have the arms to go, but I have gotten the body done. So let's see. This sweater pattern, apparently there's a long and a short version. The long having 3 of these color sections and the short having 2. However, I'm a very tall person, so I figured I wanted the short version, but I wanted it to be long enough to reach my jeans so that it wasn't going to be a bralette. So I added a few rows of yellow just here in between to make it just a few centimeters longer. And then the front and back, when you separate for the sleeves, are knit back and forth, but you start bottom up and knit in the round, and then you pick up stitches for the neck. And I am just kind of playing around with the colors because I do have most of the yellow and then green and pink, but I had some brown leftovers and some blue leftovers, and also some leftovers of this PT design Concord, which is a chained sparkly yarn made of polyester and viscose. It's like an effect yarn. So I had some leftovers of that, so I put that in the stripes. And then I haven't quite decided what to do for the arms yet, because I kind of need to see how much I have of the different leftovers and what kind of colors would work together. And yeah, but I'm hoping to finish this maybe in the next week, because it's just the sleeves left and it's knit on 7mm needles, so it's quite quick, and the arms will be knit in the round, so for me that's the quickest way of knitting. So yeah, I'm excited to have another crazy Easter sweater. This will be the most crazy Easter sweater that I have, because even though this is a very loud yellow, it's a very classic design, and it goes with normal clothing all year round, while this one will be a little bit more in your face Easter sweater, which is great though. So yeah, arms left, and then this will be done, and it's so squishy because this mohair yarn is quite thick. It's not like the lace weight silk mohair. This is more like a fingering inner cord with a lot of fuzz, so it knits up like a DK or Aran. So yeah, I'm loving it. Very Eastery. And I did get some yarn acquisitions for myself. And this is by a Norwegian designer. She's called she is called Fabel Knitwear. She makes some stunning vintage inspired designs. So if you're into vintage looks, go check her out. She has some beautiful, beautiful designs. I did test knit for her once in the past, so I have made one of her designs. but I've also bought some of her patterns, so I am looking forward to casting them on in the future. She's also dyeing yarns, and especially I already own some of her fingering weight yarn, but I really wanted to try her mohair, so I managed to get some from her shop update. So I got 2 of these. This is called let's see. I'm not sure if I can read this. Maybe you can read it. It's like OOAK Mossy Stone, I think. It's 72% kid mohair and 20% silk. No, 28% silk. And it's 420 meters. And just look at this stunning, stunning green with almost bluish black tones to some of it. It's stunning. So I got 2 of these, and then I got 1 of these 2, and this is the why am I struggling to read? This one I can read. This is Butterbeer, which is just a gorgeous warm orangey gold. And if you saw the last episode, I have made the ranunculus using 1 skein of silk mohair only. That was 400 meters on 6mm needles is what I used. So I am thinking that I could make another sweater of each of these, and then maybe a long sleeved version or another silk mohair sweater with these 2. I was really pleasantly surprised by this green. I think it's called Du skjønne glitrende, which is a Norwegian Christmas song. To me, it looks like an emerald, almost like how the pine trees look in the winter, but more jeweled tone. It's a lovely, lovely jeweled tone, if you ask me. So it's beautiful. Even her label is stunning. So yes, I am really happy to get my hands on some of her yarns, and now I just need to find a pattern that will do it justice, or maybe I'll just make more ranunculus sweaters. Who knows? So that's about all that I have been knitting on. Yes. Since the last time I did go skiing. I moved. So let's get our knitting out. Maybe you already have it out. And then we can sit and chat for a bit. Of course, I should have planned this a bit better and maybe have brought some, casted on something in stockinette for this section, but these socks will do. And I'm knitting in them on almost 12-inch from tip to tip circulars. So yeah, I moved and it was quite stressful. I was painting the kitchen cabinets to make it a bit lighter in here because it's a basement apartment and the entire apartment is like this, wood. So that steals a lot of light. And then some sad news. My dog Pia passed away, and that was quite emotionally draining. but please don't write too much about it below because it kind of just makes me cry. But she was 15 years old. She had a long loving life, and she just got really sick at the end with heart failure, and yeah, took her to the vet because I didn't have the heart to see her suffer. So, but yeah, so that was quite emotionally draining, and that was also the first week of my new job, which was physically and mentally draining. So that week I didn't really get a lot of knitting done, which I guess is okay, but that's also why I haven't had the capacity to record until today. And also I feel like I need to have something to show you, some sort of progress to record, because after all we're here to share the love of knitting, so there needs to be some knitting. And yeah, on to happier things. Went skiing, and I think that was the last skiing of this year because everything is melting and I don't think we're gonna have another proper snow, which is sad because usually in the Easter a lot of Norwegian people enjoy cross-country skiing, and well, that's not possible without snow. So, and also, yeah, so we shall see what will happen this Easter. It's just around the corner. I did get my hands on this beauty over here. This is an antique spinning wheel. I have no idea how old it is, but it's in really good condition, considering how old it is. I bought it secondhand of a lady on like a Facebook group where people sell, swatch, give away, donate things. So it was a really nice bargain. And I did try to spin on it. I did. And it does have potential to work. It would just need two extra bands because those are missing. And I might have to tweak the thing that makes the wheel go around because it wasn't as smooth as it should be ideally. But it's a very nice piece, and maybe once I get a little bit better at the whole drafting or pulling the fiber, then I can work on that thing. The whole hand, foot, eye coordination is it's not easy. But I do have an electric wheel that I bought last year or 2 years ago. It's Ashford from New Zealand. It's one of these electrical ones. It takes very little space, which is great. And then I just feed it fiber and I can adjust the speed. And I am pretty happy with, so this is where I started, quite uneven. And then this part right here is what I did 2 days ago. So it's improving, and I'm making it quite thin because I would like to ply it. So it will be a 2-ply strand, and then maybe that will be like a fingering to DK weight. And I'm practicing using some fiber that I bought when I bought this one. And sadly, I didn't note down what the sheep breed was, but I did get 3 different kinds of breeds. So this is the fiber that I am using now to practice, and it's quite soft. It's getting blown out. I need to work a little bit on how to record, but please let me know if you think this looks okay. Because I have the windows coming in here and from behind me up there. But this is like my knitting corner, so I wanted this to be where I record, but we shall see. Smells very sheepy. So that's my plan is to practice on this fiber that I don't know what braid it is, and then when I feel like I'm getting a more even spun yarn, I can move on to the fiber that I washed and carded myself from the Norwegian wild sheep pelt wool and alasuq, which I got in the fall from the farm that I was living on. But I want to save that special fiber until I feel like I can produce a yarn that I can also knit with and wear, so that I have done the whole process from seeing the sheep being cut by my neighbor or landlord until wearing a finished garment, and then maybe going back to visit the sheep. This is something that Kat from Heather and Hops, another podcast, was also talking about wanting to do, and I really like the idea of going back wearing the wool that they generously grew on their body and donated. So yeah. Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to be knitting. I just got to the section where the braids need to be braided, which is on this, the way I'm doing this is on every third round. So then when I'm doing it without the cable needles, I'm just holding those 3 stitches, take them off the needle and just hold them in a very tight grip. Then I knit, and then from that tight grip I release them and then put them back on the needle, the left needle, and then I knit them, and then that moves them so that the braid has been braided. So please let me know, are you knitting on something for Easter, or is that not normal where you're from? I did get a comment from someone that they hadn't heard about it before, but I think it's quite common here. Yeah, Easter sweater. Usually, yeah, Easter sweater, and then people go knitting, they wear their Easter sweater and sunglasses, and then they eat Norwegian quick lunch chocolate and oranges, and drink hot cocoa, and people put sausages on a thermos with warm water, and they bring that skiing, and yes, it's a very happy few days of the spring, but hopefully without rain and sun and snow instead. That's kind of like the idyllic scenery that you want for Easter. Yes. So I am waiting for a book that I have ordered, the 52 Weeks of Socks. It's a beautiful kind of coffee table book from Lane, and I'm really enjoying knitting socks, so I'm looking forward to getting that book and maybe expand my sock horizon a little bit. And I recently saw on Instagram that they are making a 52 Weeks of Shawls book, so now I really want that book as well. And one of the viewers, or you viewers, asked me if I would like to do like a knitting pattern book review every now and then, and I was thinking I could do that once I get my 52 Weeks of Socks, and maybe if I get the 52 Weeks of Shawls I could do that as well, because there are some stunning designs in, at least I know there are some stunning designs in the 52 Weeks of Socks book by very talented designers. So I can't wait to look through that book and cast something on, perhaps. Since I had a little bit less knitting today than what I usually do, I figured I would show you my most used notions pouch. This is a cork fabric I think it's supposed to be a purse or something that I got when I was in Lisbon in Portugal. There's a lot of stunning cork fabric notion bags and wallets and etc. that they sell there with beautiful prints. Especially I enjoyed the brown cork with the marine blue. I think it looks beautiful. And what the content in this keeps changing. I always have a few stitch markers that I take on and off my work, in addition to proper notion bags for stitch markers that I also have. But this one I always keep with me because I have two things in here that are, well, which I absolutely need to have at all times. And the one of them is this scissor, which I think I got from Tiger of Sweden, but it is such a good scissor. It's quite sharp, like you can hear that. So it snips the yarn really easily, and it's small and light. And then the other thing that I keep in here, which is a must, is this darning needle, which is quite blunt, so it's not painful. And it can darn quite thick threads. So I use this for all of my sweaters and patterns. Whatever I'm working on, this I always use to weave in the ends. So these two are my most necessary items that I always keep with me. Yes. And of course always have a few stitch markers in here, but I keep stitch markers all around me in every project bag and on my purses and everywhere. But I always have a few in here because this is what I always have with me with my projects. So yeah, there's fiber everywhere. So I don't know if I forgot to say something. Really enjoying my new job, but it's completely different from any of the other work I've done as a doctor, so it's a lot to learn, but I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I really like it. I'm happy with my career path thus far, and I do hope that once I get a little bit more into the routines and just my brain will be less foggy when I come home, that I can spend more time just knitting and relaxing instead of just passing out on the couch. Anyhow, I hope you're well. I'm hoping that you get to enjoy your knitting and making, and that you're feeling hopeful now that spring is around the corner. Easter's coming up. Maybe you feel inspired to knit something that represents the hope that spring brings with it. At least it does to me. And that you just have a lovely, lovely time. And I will see you soon. I don't think that it will go as many weeks between the episodes now that I'm finally settled. And yeah, I will see you soon. Bye.